I got this cat who played bass. His name is Reginald Canty. Reggie, what's up, man?
What's going on, big eyes?
What's happening?
Oh, not too much, man. Trying to keep it alive. Just trying to keep it alive.
How long you been playing bass, man?
Well, roughly about 48 years. I started when I was 13, and I'll be 60 this year. But I didn't get serious until I was about 20, something like that.
So you started playing it, and when? What year was it?
1965.
You started playing bass in 1965, and you was how old?
13.
At 13, why did you decide bass at 13? What was your influence?
Well, I primarily grew up in two different neighborhoods. One was all black, and by the time I was 9 years old, we moved into what was a predominantly all white neighborhood. Now, in the all black neighborhood, there were some guys in the neighborhood that often played outside. A guy that played flute, his name was Aaron Neal. These two boys that were twins, Daryl and Harold Hogan, and they played outside. And this was right about the time when Herbie Mann had come out with Live at the Lighthouse, and everybody was playing Summertime, and that was before I started playing. But that's what struck me. I said, I want to do that. I want to be able to perform in front of people, but I didn't know what I wanted to do.
Okay, so.
But anyway.
Well, let me ask you this. When you say they was playing outside where?
In the backyard.
What? In what city?
This was in Inkster.
In Inkster.
Inkster, Michigan.
Inkster, Michigan, suburb of Detroit, they say. Or some people say it ain't a suburb. All right, so that was back in what year was that again?
We moved from that neighborhood in '62, but I often went back over there. By '65, there was a couple of kids on the street where I lived at. I guess their parents overindulged them a little. This guy named Eric, he had a set of drums, he had a marimba, a guitar, and you said a funny story. Cause I actually took the guitar and I learned how to play bass, just playing on one string. You know, and he would play drums and we just mess around. And then a guy across the street from me actually had a couple of basses. And I really didn't even know how to tune them. He'd have to tune them up for me and everything. And I started playing and just watching him. That's where I basically started getting that together. Because when I tried to play it, one of the first things I noticed, I had like a physical facility to play this instrument. And so I stuck with it. But I didn't get my own until about '68. The first bass I bought.
And how old was you in '68?
'68 I was
16?
17.
17?
68, I was 17, and I bought a 1964 Fender Jazz.
You did?
Yeah, 1964 Fender.
Where is it?
Oh, it was stolen.
Nah, for real. You're a victim of those old basses always getting stolen.
Yeah, well, mine got stolen on the airplane trip. My case came in and the bass did it.
Oh, dang, man. That's a sad story.
So, I mean, but I was lucky enough to be around a lot of guys who could play. I mean, not just play bass, but they could play.
All right, so you was about 17 years old, and you started playing that bass. You started knowing that you like it. You got a passion for it.
Yeah, and I have a facility for it. I understood the language. I had a better understanding of what was happening in the low register than I did in anything else. Music, and once I heard it, I locked it. And before I could even know how to play it, I knew whether it was right or wrong. So my ears kind of grew. I was an ear player when I first started out. I didn't start playing seriously, you know, because when I was in school I played trombone, so I knew the clef, but I never adapted it to playing the bass.
Right.
You know.
That's why I used to play in
and
school.
I wish I would have did it now, because nowadays there's notation way below. You know, there's no A and C and B, and normal in normal notation back then. There was no pop, slap, and thump notation back then.
Right.
And so most of my adaptations I learned from upright guys. Most of the guys I started playing with,
Yeah, give me some
I
names.
learned from upright guys.
Who like who?
Brian Beatty was the first guy that I started really taking lessons from. And Brian could just play. He could play multiple instruments.
Who else?
Um,
Who your favorite uprights?
One of my favorite, my first one that really attracted to me was Paul Chambers.
That you know what? That's my favorite, and one of my favorite bass lines is what is it? The Giant Steps.
Mm-hmm.
When he playing bass,
Right.
that's one of my favorite. That uprights, you know. Now I got a lot of favorites. When our homies,
But I just like the way his spoke for some reason. I just like the way
right.
his spoke.
Now one of our homies is Detroit bass player Ron Carter. Was you a fan of Ron too?
Big fan of Ron, but Ron was like the Billy Cobham of bass. Ron was a powerful bass player. You couldn't match his physical intensity.
Right.
I mean, when he put 4/4, it was in your face. Oh, here it is. You better be able to keep up with it, because I can go anywhere I want with it. And that's how he played. He played his. A lot of people say he played that bass viciously. That's a good way to describe the way he played.
Give me some names of some bass players, and if you want to elaborate on their style, why you like it, it's all good. Just give me some names of some bass players.
Early on,
chronologically, yeah, that'll work.
Early on, it was like Duck Dunn with Booker T and the MGs. It was Larry Graham with
Sly
and the Family Stone. The biggest influence during my growing years, without a doubt, was James Jamerson. He was the most
Detroit bass player.
Yes, he was the most publicly heard. He had the most saturation at that time.
And you was listening to bass at that time.
Right, but we really didn't know who these guys were, because they didn't bother to put the band personnel on liner notes until years later. So we didn't discover who these guys, what their actual names were, until years later. Then there's, of course, Bob Babbitt was a good choice.
A white dude.
To come in behind James when James moved on. To carry on that legacy, because his tone was similar and his approach was similar. So those guys in the early days, and then later on...
who you liked later on?
Later on, when I started getting toward my adult years, I started listening to a lot of people. Felix Papalardi, who played bass for a rock band called Mountain. I was listening to a lot of rock then because I was interested in capturing that energy level. Not so much that I was listening to that music a lot, but that's the most thing that I was.
I've never heard of a band called Mountain or Sissy
Paul Jones. I had a good friend, Reggie McBride, and some of the members in the band, they already know who Reggie is. He's from Inkster.
Another Detroit bass player from Inkster.
Bass player in Booty.
He used to play with McBride. He
played with Derek Dramatics. He played with Al Jarreau. He played with this new guy, Keltmo. But I think Bill Johnson is taking Reggie's place. Reggie just stepped away.
Okay, so
back at that time, I was still listening to a man named Francis Rocco Prestia.
Tower Power.
And that's when the funk influence really started to kick in.
And that was like 75, right?
Early 70s.
Yeah, okay.
Dean Johnson, a lot of people don't understand, but the Earth, Wind & Fire was around in 1968. Their first album was in 1968. I forgot the name of that album, but I was attracted to his sound too.
Verdine Johnson or Verdine White?
Now, but I noticed about what I was playing, I was more attracted to people who played upright. But I was trying to find a way, a tonality to make it work on electric bass. And that's what I've been searching for all these years. And I finally arrived at when I started learning just to play fretless, and now I play fretless exclusively. But that's what I hear. A lot of guys do it, popping and slapping and thumping, and they do a marvelous job, but I'm amazed at it. But I never pursued it myself because I don't hear it that way. I don't hear the music that way. So I just stuck with what I knew. And the reason I ain't been hurting all these years because I stuck with that so close, I wasn't willing to compromise myself.
Right.
In no way, there's a part of me that likes the music that I grew up with, and there's a part of me that likes some classical music, there's a part of me that likes folk music, there's a large part of me that likes jazz, there's a large part of me that likes chamber music. And I wanted to get a overall instrument that could perform in all those genres. And the fretted instruments don't do it because there's too much metal in the string path, and you always get that metal sound. I was looking for like warmer, softer sound.
Really?
And that's why I started playing the fretless bass, because that's what I hear. I hear upright accompaniment, but I take advantage of the fact that the notes are close together, easier to access, and it's easier to hear.
We never did get to Stanley Clarke and Jocko. When did you get introduced to them simultaneously,
No.
like me, or one at a time? Who was first, and when did you start liking them, and was it the type of music, or was it the bass player? Let me know. What's up?
Well, I heard Stanley Clarke's first debut album and his album Chick Corea, Where Have I Known You Before? That was in the early 70s. And I didn't get introduced to Jocko until about 74 when his debut album came out. Well, both of them struck me.
How did you? Can you remember when you heard it?
Yeah, Stanley struck me.
And what was it like?
Improvisational skill, and it's just sheer power the way he played. And he was a virtuoso on two instruments, the upright and electric and arco style.
A bass.
Yeah, an arco and pizzicato style.
Bass, upright bass.
I'll give him credit because that's an incredible amount of work to have to put in to get that good. And I realized that because he was like that when he was young. His first gig was with, I think, Pharaoh Sanders. And then I heard Jocko, his preview album. And Jocko,
upright or?
Jocko sounded like an upright. He said he had the same ear, but his ear was way more progressed than I thought was possible for an electric bass. And the tone and warmth of his instrument is what really spoke to me. But he was incredibly lyrical and melodical and fearless with his instrument. He wasn't afraid to step out of the bass role and play harmony. He played everything that the instrument is capable of playing. It's capable of playing single notes. It's capable of playing harmonies because you can play two notes at the same time. It's capable of playing rhythms because it's basically a percussive instrument as well. And he took advantage of all that. But his melodic approach toward the instrument was something I never heard of. And that's what stuck with me. And over the years, after hearing these guys, I found myself trying to play like them. It took me a long time to learn
how to be yourself.
Yeah, how to be influenced by somebody, but not defined by them. Who I was real comfortable with my own ideas. No, I got to play something that sounds good to Stanley. You know what sounds good to Stanley, what sounds good to them. You don't know. You just never know. So,
Okay, so when you got introduced to these guys, you were still a young cat, probably still in high school.
One more guy that people don't speak in when they speak in those circles. They don't speak on them.
Go ahead, tell us who it is.
Ralph Armstrong.
Oh, we was at the show the other day, or the other month. If anybody watching this,
yeah, you mentioned those names. You mentioned Stanley Clarke. You mentioned Jocko. You mentioned Ralph in those same breaths.
Ralph.
Not have to retract.
See, we haven't got to the current yet. We're gonna get to the current in a second, but just talk about Ralphie, another Detroit bass player who we had the pleasure of going to see his show live. I think you multiple times, with me just once. Ralphie, and he's funny, man. Got the live show on Detroit live.tv.com or something.
Be funny to hold down a gig with Frank Zappa.
Yeah.
You got to be funny. Frank Zappa proved there's comedy that can be found in music, and he proved it. Every time he put something out, he injected humor in his music, but it was real. The music was intense.
Yeah. Now check this out. Currently, you know, speaking of current, we just saw Ralphie, who's one of our icons from the fusion intro days. You know what I'm saying? We know about him and Jocko going for the same audition.
Right.
But currently, few years, recent years, and some of your current favorites and bass players. You know, you didn't hit me onto a whole bunch of them, so give me some currents 2000 on forward that just came out of nowhere.
Well, you know, there's Victor Wooten.
Wait, okay, now that I consider him one of the best in the world. How do you feel about Victor?
Victor is something. He's something else. He's in a I can't say class by so that'd be unfair to a lot of guys, but he's a free kindred spirit. And it comes out in the instrument. There's a lot of guys who can play, but there's very few who can extol the virtues of their personality, and it comes out in their music. And he's one of the ones who does that. Then I like Alain Caron, Jimmy Haslip.
Some more current favorites.
Gary Willis.
You naming all my boys. Who have you played with? Have you? I mean, we know you can play. We done sing some stuff. Hopefully, that you just did. Hopefully, you're gonna do some more for us in a little bit. Who have you played with? What's your history, your resume, your music your resume, your discography, but more so your resume on bass?
Well, I don't have much of a discography. I specialized in performance, not so much recording. And in the early days, you know, we were doing the basement bands on the Chitlin circuit, you know, the talent shows and the area gigs, because it was illegal for us to play in bars to begin with. But after I came back home from the service in the early 70s, the first couple of years I spent in school, when there was a lot of little bands that I played with. But the biggest band that got me off shoot to make some money was a Las Vegas show act called Pepper Seasons. And that's what it was a Las Vegas show act. So we did a whole bunch of different kinds of things. And they invited special guest singers to come in every style, from Nancy Wilson to Barbra Streisand to Temptations to Motown sound to whatever you could think, to Elvis, and sometimes we had to learn their stuff. And during that process, we were picked up for about 18 months, and we were rhythm section for Diana Ross for about 18 months, and that's when I called it quits. Because I had a personal situation that wasn't working out for me. So then came back in the early 80s and played with various local bands around here. Played with Darren McKinney and his brothers for a little while. A group called Free Flow, which is some guys who were affiliated with David Miles. They all seemed to work together. And I talked for a little while. What I was really trying to do was preserve my marriage life, because the music was getting in the way of it. But I only have myself to blame, because I went out there without a plan. I didn't have a plan. I was kind of just winging it and let the wind take me where it was going to take me. And that's what a single man does. A married guy, he can't really do that. But he couldn't tell me that back then, because the opportunities for a live bass player were dwindling. They were starting to go with automated music, drum machines, programmed music.
Yeah.
So the live gigs for a bass player were starting to dry up, and I recognized that. I'm a performance major. So I had to get a day job. And you start making $20, $30, $40, $50, $60,000 a year, and you can't leave. But my love for the instrument never left me. And I continued to invest in it and play just like I was playing professionally. I kept my gear up to date. At least I tried to, you know, within practical means. I kept my gear up, and I tried to keep my chops together, keep my excitement about it together. And that's pretty much where I'm standing at right now, trying to get my feet back in the game.
Anything else, though?
There's only one thing
you want to say
in closing. Is I hold my ability to play in a very high level of reverence, because nothing that I've done, I couldn't have done without God. He supplied me with the body and the mind that I used to conceive to play this music. He's provided me with the ability to play it, the hands that I used to play with, the ears that I used to hear it. And I just feel like I'm in a great community of people who realize that we're really lucky to be able to please so many people and entertain so many people with something that began with something you just used to amuse yourself in your bedroom with. And that's how closely I regard my ability to play with. I don't hold myself in any regard higher than somebody who doesn't have the ability to play. I just feel like I'm very blessed to have it, because it's had some real great spiritual and social advantages for me, and I don't plan to put it down until I physically can't play it no more, and I don't see that happening.
All right. Let us hear it. Ladies and gentlemen, this was our interview with Detroit bass player Reginald Canty, and I'm coming to get every Detroit bass player I can find. You know what I'm saying? I'm coming to get you, interview you. Carrie Lacey, I'm coming to get you too. Let's go ahead and do this song. What's the name of it?
The name of this tune, I have to look at it to find out what it is. It's called Stick-to-Itiveness.
By whom?
By the Yellow Jackets.
By the Yellow Jackets. Okay, come on. And who playing bass with the Yellow Jackets?
Jimmy Haslip is playing.
Jimmy Haslip is the bomb.
He's familiar. This is the guy.
All right, so excuse me.
All right,
Yellow Jackets, Jimmy Haslip on bass. Google it. Check them out, man. These some top-notch dudes. And Reggie Canty. Really, man? Did you really have to do that, man? You know how long did it take me to learn how to play something like that? It take me about a year. Really? Hey, man, that was really impressive.
Thank you, bro.
Dang, man, I can listen to some more of the stuff you playing on this, man. I tell you what, though, so you were one of the Detroit bass players.
Yeah, just one of them.
And there's a lot of them out there. We're going to try to go check them out.
Every last one of them, man.
Hopefully we can go, hopefully you and I can go and chit and chat with some of those cats and see what they up to.
No, I got time for it. You know, I'm at your disposal, man.
All right.
Let's see when. We need to get it up and get it running so people can just don't have to see just one person at a time. Maybe we can get at least one post every week, you know what I'm saying?
Right. All right. Well, I'm gonna let you go now, man. I appreciate you playing. I appreciate you talking and teaching us a few things. And I'll talk to you later, bro.
All right,
on the Detroit bass players.
Holler back at you.
All right.
All right, now.